Building something new and starting a company can be really tough and really scary. For me, I find it so helpful to understand that just because something is scary doesn't mean that you're on the wrong path. In fact, the greatest founders have faced gut-wrenching, terrifying times, and they made it. Well, in this video, let's look at 3 examples where founders face moments not just of doubt, but of where they really had to say, it's probably time to quit. These are crazy stories. Okay, let's get into it. Let's look at number 1. You need to get a job. So Howard Schultz is the man who built Starbucks, and this is what his father-in-law told him while he was in the middle of building it. Howard had an idea for coffee shops where people could gather and spend time with each other. At the time, his shops were called Il Giornale, but he was struggling to raise money, and he hadn't taken any salary for 2 years, and his wife Sherry was pregnant. So his father-in-law comes to visit him, takes him for a walk, and says, "Hey, I respect what you're doing, but it's a hobby, it's not a job, and you need to get a job." Howard talks about this on the Acquired podcast, and you can check out the link below. He says he was humiliated. Here was someone from his family, his father-in-law, saying he was failing and he needed to stop. Howard says he cried. Howard went back to his wife, Sherry, and talked to her about what his father-in-law had said. And she said, "No, we are going to keep going." Because she had seen something. Customers were coming back to his shops and connecting with each other. It was tough going, but he had something in how his customers were enjoying his product. Do you have clues that tell you you have something, that point to your real value? Number 2, I'm going with your competitor. This is what happened to Joe Coulombe, the founder of Trader Joe's, an absolute blockbuster success of a grocery store, today. But in 1965, he was just getting going, and over a single lunch, his entire business collapsed. They talk about this on another awesome episode of Acquired. You can check that out below too. So Joe was running a small convenience store chain in California that was basically a knockoff of 7-Eleven. But 7-Eleven wasn't in California at the time, so Joe thought he had room to grow. And he had one absolutely central partner, the Adore Milk Company. It was his biggest supplier and his financer. But one fateful day, the head of Adore takes Joe out to lunch, has a few drinks, and says, "We've decided to sell our dairy operations, so we won't be able to work with you anymore." That was a blow, but it got much worse when Joe asked, "Who are you selling to?" His now former partner tells him, 7-Eleven. And by the way, 7-Eleven is coming to California, so you're in big trouble. So just like that, Joe lost his supplier, his financer, and the advantage that he thought he had, being in California, evaporated. It was over. He was done. So what did he do? Well, he went on vacation. Not to be lazy, but to step back and to recalibrate. And he said to himself, "I just lost my advantage. I need to find a new one. What could that be?" In this case, he tried to find something that he could get that his biggest competitor, 7-Eleven, could not. And that turned out to be a California liquor license, which is something that 7-Eleven, as an out-of-state competitor, would struggle to get. Joe got the license and built his business around liquor. And that gave him years of breathing room to offer more and more things that customers couldn't get at any other store, to build Trader Joe's. And now number 3, terror and agony and doubt. Those are the words of James Dyson. Today, he's a knight. He's worth over $14 billion, and he's known as one of the world's greatest inventors. But when he was creating his big product, the bagless vacuum, he spent 1,000 days building prototypes without getting it to work. He had no success and no business. He had this idea to build a cyclone to replace the bag that was on the vacuum, but he just couldn't get the cyclone to work. This is highlighted in the Founders Podcast, linked below. So James says he was full of terror and agony and doubt. He said he had no evidence that any self-belief was justified. This is what he went through. This is what he had to fight through. Did he have customer evidence? No, he didn't even have a product. Did he have an advantage? Well, certainly not a structural advantage like Joe had, but he had 2 things. First, he had a vision for a product that he could feel in his bones, a vacuum that didn't need a bag. James Dyson just didn't understand why that didn't exist. Second, he had that belief in himself, and he had this idea that if he really needed to, he could go and get a job. But he wasn't ready to do that. So he persevered, and he found a partner, James Fry, who gave him just enough financing to keep going. It took him over 5,000 prototypes, but he got there. So, 3 moments, not just of we're in trouble, but holy crap, it's over. But think about these examples. What it must have been like for Howard and Joe and James in these moments. For them, facing these moments of seriously, maybe I should quit, didn't mean that it was over. These were part of the journey that led to their success. But when you look at these examples, remember one other thing. None of these people had success given to them. Luck didn't fall into their lap. They had to fight for it. They went after it. They did the uncomfortable things. They took action. So even tremendously successful founders face these gut-wrenching moments. And if you're trying to learn from them, here are a few questions you might want to ask yourself. Do you have something in the way people are responding to your product? Or do you have an advantage? Or can you get one? Do you have just enough to keep going? And one more. Are you taking the action that can get you to where you need to go? If the answer is yes to one of these, then it might be scary, but you've got a shot.